Hey, Cosmic Warriors, spiritual skeptics, or just a random confused human. Welcome to another dimension. It's time to sit down with me, your reluctant mystic Michelle, coming to you from the void between worlds to talk about some really interesting metaphysical stuff. Who am I? Just a human who's been thrown into this place called Earth, who has a lot of questions, born with a whole bunch of gifts, but not a lot of answers. So what this podcast is going to do is explore some paranormal mysteries, energetic phenomena, and a lot of FML moments that have you questioning, what the hell are we doing here? So if you're spiritual or you're just really confused, this is the right place for you. So join me if you like riding the waves of the quantum ocean and getting really down deep into the WTF of what's going on here. Because, as I always say, there legit is no way I signed up for this. So if you're ready for a wild ride, let's go. Have you ever noticed that when you try to level up in life, things suddenly get a little bit harder or a lot bit harder? The moment you decide to heal, let go, and grow, boom. Old patterns resurface, toxic people reappear, and suddenly everything feels like a test. Well, that's because it is. Every spiritual breakthrough comes with resistance. And today, we're talking about 3 types of spiritual tests, what they mean, why they happen, and most importantly, how to pass them so you don't get stuck in the same cycle over and over again. Welcome back to There's No Way I Signed Up for This, where we talk about the chaotic, unfiltered, and often unexpected side of spiritual growth. So grab your journal, grab your tea, because today we're breaking down these tests so you can start moving forward. If you hadn't listened to the previous podcast talking about healing, you might want to listen to that too. They connect back and back, forth and forth. And there's probably something in there that ties into what we're going to talk about here that could be helpful. So let's get into it. Why do spiritual tests happen anyway? Well, growth requires challenge, right? So just like in school, you don't move to the next grade without passing some form of knowledge check, test, or some way to determine if you're ready to proceed to the next level. Well, the same applies to spiritual evolution. God really isn't testing you for fun, but making sure the lesson is solidified. The moment you commit to change, you're given opportunities to prove that commitment. So it's more like, don't talk about it, be about it. And if you know me in real life, you know that's a phrase of mine. Don't tell me what you're going to do, show me. Don't talk about what you're going to do it. And that's really kind of the same scope of this experience. So how do you know if it's a test or just a little bit of bad luck? Well, spiritual tests tend to feel familiar, as if the universe is asking, did you really learn this lesson? Like when you get that random text from somebody you haven't spoken to in months, or a job offer that you turned down because, it just wasn't aligned to who you were, suddenly resurfaces with another opening. You often feel triggered in the exact same area that you're trying to grow in. The moment you decide to level up, old patterns, old people, even old habits tend to resurface. Another example is you finally decide to set boundaries with toxic people, and suddenly that old friend who's always draining your energy reaches out. That's not random. It's a test to see if you're really ready to stand in your power. So you kind of can think of it as the last boss in the video game, right? I've gotten through all of these mini tests and lessons. This is the main one. And if I accomplish this, I proceed to the next level. So instead of calling them tests, let's refer to them as checkpoints. Let's refer to them as checkpoints. I may or may not have a little gamer in me, maybe, but I like the phrase checkpoints versus test because I don't know, I just don't like the connotation test have. So, what are 3 major spiritual checkpoints and how to pass them? One that I totally suck at is the checkpoint of patience. This is when everything slows down. So, what does this checkpoint look like? Well, you're working hard, you're putting in the effort, but nothing is happening. Nothing. You're putting out the resumes, you're going on these interviews, you're hearing nothing back. Everything seems to be paused. There's delays, there's obstacles. When you pray, there seems to be radio silence. You feel frustrated, stuck, and you start questioning everything. But why is this happening? Well, sometimes when you reach this checkpoint, it's looking at what your ability is to trust in the divine. Again, the divine timing, his timing, not yours. It's making sure you're acting from faith and not fear. And many people fail this test by giving up too soon or forcing things that aren't ready. So when you're at this checkpoint in life, some things you can do to pass it, a lot of you aren't going to like the first one, but to surrender. Let go of the need for control. Let go of the need for immediate results. Stop overthinking. Sometimes being still is actually a part of the process. And focus on small steps instead of obsessing over the big picture. So yeah, maybe I didn't get to that, but I accomplished these tiny places and these tiny objectives. They're going to put me to the big place I'm trying to get to. So if you were journaling, a prompt here could be, where in my life am I trying to control the outcome instead of trusting the process? And I'm going to go ahead and plug another one of my episodes just about that topic, trusting the process. It can be very difficult, but listening to that podcast might actually help you in this particular checkpoint if this is something you're having challenges with now. The next test or checkpoint is discomfort. And this is when life pushes you out of your comfort zone. So what does that look like? Well, you're suddenly forced to make a change you didn't ask for, right? It could be a change in jobs, a change in location, a change in how you thought somebody was or your view of a situation. Opportunities come that feel terrifying but necessary. It's one of those take your medicine type of scenarios. I don't want to do it, but I got to do it. Or you're being called to step into a bigger version of yourself. Something that puts you in a place of, do I really have the tools to do this, right? And this is where imposter syndrome pops up a lot when we're doing that checkpoint of discomfort. So why exactly does this happen? Well, growth only happens outside of your comfort zone. Nothing grows in the comfort zone. So you have a choice. If you want to stay where you're at, stay there. But if you're expanding, if you're growing, you're going to have to step out of that space. If you refuse to leave, then guess what? Sometimes you get shaken up to where you don't have a choice. So, that was kind of a fib, right? You really can't stay in the comfort zone if you have a calling on your life, if you have an assignment, and I've spoken to this before. If it is in God's will for you to do something, you're going to do it. How you do it, that's going to be dependent on you. Are you going to go willingly or are you going to be dragged? But guess what? It's going to happen. So this is where that discomfort comes in, right? So if you're being pushed towards your next level, but fear is holding you back, this test or checkpoint of discomfort is going to show up in life. Now, how do you get past it? How do we get past it so we can ascend to the next level? Well, say yes to opportunities, even if they scare you. Because again, having a little bit of fear is a good thing. Having a little bit of anxiety is a good thing. There's something called eustress, not distress, but eustress. And that's the good form of stress. So say yes to the opportunities, even if they scare you. You want to recognize fear as a sign that you're on the right track. If everything felt good, we wouldn't be growing because that is outside of our comfort zone. You want to let go. Here's that C word again. That C word. Let go of the illusion of control. You can't stay in the same place and expect new results. I'm going to repeat that for you. You can't stay in the same place and expect new results. Very similar to the definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting something different. So if you are journaling, here's a prompt for you. What am I avoiding right now because it feels uncomfortable? And what would happen if I embraced it instead? So understanding what the checkpoint of discomfort is very important. I also add, talk to trusted friends and support people who can assist you with this. Because being scared of different opportunities is something that can identify that this is a test or a checkpoint, but you also want to make sure that you are focused and your compass is pointing in the right direction. So making sure you get that unfiltered advice and support is also a part of the process. Our third test or checkpoint we're going to discuss is the test of repetition, which we all probably can relate to. And this is when the same lesson keeps coming back. So what might this look like? You could have different people, same energy. Here's an example of that. So when I'm doing therapy, specifically with clients who are leaving toxic relationships, and even myself, where you'll say, this person has left that individual. And sometimes I'll refer back and say, well, you didn't really leave him. You're dating him again, or you're dating her again. And they'll say, no, I'm not. This is a completely different person. Different meat suit, same energy. So that person might have some similar qualities. They're doing the same toxic thing. They're making you feel the same way. Here is a really big indicator if you're a music person. I'm a music person. I have playlists for everything. If you start listening to the same songs, the same sad, mad, hurt songs that you were listening to with this new person that you used to listen to with an ex, guess what? Different person, same energy. If you start saying the same phrases or you start hearing the same phrases from that person that you heard from your ex, the toxic one, different person, same energy. So that's what I mean when I say you're dating the same person, even if they're in a different meat suit. You keep attracting the same relationship patterns. Again, that's kind of what we just referred to, right? It's you might have moved on to a different person, but the relationship pattern's the same. So you want to make sure that you are addressing that when you're doing any type of assessment and healing and moving forward. You make progress, then suddenly you find yourself back at square one. And how frustrating is that? Especially when you feel you have done the work, you have gotten to where you needed to have gotten to, you have checked the boxes, and then you find out you're back at that first box again. Sometimes willingly, sometimes unwillingly. But this is your test of repetition or your checkpoint. But why is this really happening? Why do we seem to repeat these lessons over and over again, even if we think we're making progress? Well, one reason is you haven't fully broken the cycle yet. You might think you've done all the reading, you've listened to all the episodes, you've done all the exercises, you talk to your therapist about the same person until they're sick of hearing about them, but you haven't fully broken the cycle yet. So this is the universe, God's way of waiting to see if you're going to react differently this time. I'm going to present to you the same relationship in a different person. Did you do the work? Have you healed? And until you learn the lesson, the test is going to keep showing up. Keep showing up. And that could be so annoying. And again, I speak from experience. So how do we get past this checkpoint? How do we pass this test? Well, the first thing you're going to have to do is identify the common denominator in the pattern. And I hate to tell you that it's you. You're the common denominator. So meaning change has to come from you. Change your response. Don't react the same way you always have. Do something different to expect something different. And stop seeing cycles as punishment, but invitations to choose differently. This is your opportunity. We can't change what other people do, what other people say in their behaviors. All we can control are our own. So if you're seeing cycles repeating over and over and over again, just, for research purposes, do something different this time and see what happens. And if you're journaling, here's a prompt. What reoccurring patterns do you keep experiencing? And what can you do differently this time to get beyond them? So, spiritual tests or checkpoints aren't here to break you. They're here to refine you. They're here for proof that you're evolving, proof that you're stepping into a higher version of yourself. So next time life throws a challenge at you, ask yourself, is this a test? Is this a checkpoint? And if it is, how are you going to pass it? So if this episode resonated with you, let me know. If there's some cycles that you have seen repeating in your life, let's do something different this time. And I would love to hear about it. Or if you've had experiences where you were able to pass certain checkpoints, I would love to hear about it. But I'm pretty sure if you're listening to this point, the checkpoint or test of patience, of repeating patterns, of just having that discomfort feeling, take these as a good thing. Take these as you're being looked at to say, hey, this is your opportunity to choose differently. This is your opportunity to evolve. So let's do that. So hopefully this episode was helpful. You got some awesome journal prompts, if anything, right? And let's see what you're going to do differently moving from this point. And I'll see you on the other side. So thank you guys for hanging out with me. You guys take care, stay safe, keep your eyes to the sky.